Good evening and welcome to the Fredonia Central School District Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, June 8th, 2021. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. It's good to see everybody here with a vibrant audience. We're expecting a lot of public comments for questions, and so that's the first thing that we do is after the pledge is we hear from our public. So we reserve this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual or group. Concerns and comments during this session should be directly related to items listed on the proposed agenda for this meeting. Audience members seeking a response should complete a board correspondence sheet and return it to our district clerk, Christine Slagle, up front here. Audience members are asked to adhere to social distancing regulations when addressing the Board of Education. Is there anyone here tonight who would like to address the board? We have all these fine students, and they don't want to come forward? Yeah. They don't want to tell us about the prom? Nothing? No? No? Okay. If not, we have a proposed consent agenda. The adoption of the consent agenda upon a motion and a second and an affirmative vote by members present approves each and every item so designated. However, prior to the adoption of the consent agenda, any board member may remove any item from the consent agenda. This item will then come up for discussion as part of the regular agenda. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite routine matters so the board has more time to deal with substantive matters and also hear from our students. So, if I could, if we could get the agenda on the floor and then we can discuss it before we vote. Mr. Huff, thank you. And a second, Ms. Powell-Fortner. Is there anything anyone would like to pull out of the consent agenda for discussion? We're all good? Okay. If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great. So, we have had a school board election and a budget vote back in May, and we have brought on a new member to our board and have a returning member. Welcome back and welcome.
Thank you.
We're pleased to have both of you. So at this time, I'm just going to ask Ms. Slagle to administer the oath of office, please.
Sure.
For the two members.
So I will read the oath and I will pass it out to you. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as member of the Board of Education for the Fredonia Central School District according to the best of my ability. Welcome to you both.
So not listed on the oath is a requirement that students come first, as you know, in this board. So thank you for continuing on, and again, welcome. Glad to have both of you. So, good. So we're going to start out, since you guys didn't have any public comments, we're going to make you work, and we've got a special presentation on the Spectator. So Ms. Reinhardt and Ms. Sedota, I will leave everything to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So, can I take this off when I talk or no? I just wasn't sure if it would like what the deal was. Okay.
The mic is on, correct?
Okay.
The mic is on.
Can you hear me? I mean, I don't have to.
We can hear you.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's fine. Okay. So, so I'm here tonight. We're here tonight, Mrs. Joe and I, with our student editors. So we have William Previtt, we have Jack Forster, we have Adriana Bucci, and Tess Carell. So they're also going to speak. So I'm keep walking away from my phone. I need to walk around my classroom, I guess. So. You know, we're here tonight just to share a little information update about what's going on with the Spectator. And I guess I'll just start with one of, you know, we have our next issue coming out pretty soon. You're getting copies of the last issue. And the students, I think, are going to talk about this, but they wanted to give you a copy of our last editorial that they wrote. So I think they're going to talk about that a little bit. And, you know, we've had a really great year. I mean, considering, you know, we had to figure this all out last spring, which Mrs. Zoda is going to talk about a little bit. But, you know, we received the New York Press Association Award for the third year in a row for Best High School Newspaper in New York State. And so I couldn't be prouder of our students. And some of our students also received individual awards. Jack Forster and William Previtt received first place for Best Column. And we had Lauren Marshall win first place for Best Sports Story. We had Josie Tomaszewski, I think it was second place. And I'm just going off the top of my head. I know that several students won individual awards. So Josie Tomaszewski for feature, Mackenzie Abbey for photography, and then I'm trying to think. So Lauren Marshall. And I know Christine Slagle, who is here tonight, also won first place because she's our social media person. She gets the paper online, which is really, really important. And so she also received an award. So, but you know, really we're so, when we received awards for design and general excellence as well. And really we're a team, and again, Mrs. Field will talk a little bit more about this, but you know, we're very proud. I'm very proud of, you know, of the students because, you know, it's a way for them to get recognized for their hard work. So without further ado, I'm actually going to let them do the talking. So I think that Tess and Adriana are going to go first.
Hello, my name is Adriana Pucci, and I've been a part of the School Spectator since I was in journalism class my sophomore year. I continued to stay on the staff for my junior year as I was doing the newspaper as an extracurricular. As senior year was approaching, I decided to step up and take a job as an assistant editor while taking the JCC journalism class. Winning the best newspaper in New York State 3 years in a row has meant a lot to our staff and community, and it's something I'm glad I got to be a part of. This is a great opportunity for anyone looking to get more involved with their community and to help get a better understanding of what's going around in your school district. I highly recommend joining this class to all incoming students. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tess Carell, and same goes for me with how Adriana started journalism. I started writing in the paper through the class in sophomore year, and I've just stuck with it ever since. 2 years later, writing on the paper, I have become one of the 3 co-editors-in-chief. Journalism has taught me a lot about the community and peers within the school. The articles we write about focus on current activities that go around in the community and within the school. The classwork is mainly focused on the paper itself. You learn how to peer edit, interview people, which helps with social skills, and of course gives you a unique type of writing skill. The class period gives you the opportunity to work on your specific articles that you are writing for that issue. Journalism has given me the great opportunity to form new or better relationships with teachers and peers. It is a great class, and I would highly recommend it to other students. Thank you.
Hello. So Will and I joined the staff our junior year after no experience, no class. We just kind of, one day, Mrs. Reinhardt approached us in the hallway and said, you should join, and we did.
It was less optional than that. It was just kind of join the Spectator.
Join the Spectator. So we joined. And from day one, we wanted to take a job as an editor. And we became assistant editors our junior year. And we worked on a lot of the layout, a lot of the correction, and that was a big thing junior year that we weren't able to do the end of junior year and then throughout the senior year just because of the lack of technology and being remote due to the pandemic. From there, we became editor-in-chiefs. We started a column of our own, and that we started a random polling where we just polled about what kind of favorite potato do you like, or what water fountain is the best in the school. And from there, we got into some deeper issues, and that's how we won a best column in the state. We did a poll about sleeping, about like how sleep schedules were affected. And we continue to write that article now. Yeah.
This club, this organization is really a unique one among those at Fredonia because it brings together so many people into creating one solid piece of publication. Be it photographers, writers, editors, everyone can bring their own unique perspective to this paper. People, whatever your passion is, you can find a way to do it on the Spectator. If you like sports, you can write about sports. If you're into the news, you can do feature stories that involve news around the school. So everyone is really passionate about what they're doing, and that passion is what helps us to create this award-winning paper year after year. Everyone puts in a lot of effort, and that's why we've been so successful over the years.
Anyone who knows Mrs. Reinhardt and we know that we like to talk. So I put all my comments on a little Post-it to spare you. I thought I would just kind of keep it quick, but because I think the students really spoke eloquently about their experience. But there are two words that I would like to throw out. The first one is surprise. This past year, I think we all will admit there have been lots of surprises. Some of them haven't been so pleasant, you know. And so the second word that I'd like to throw out is celebrate. Okay, so the surprise, of course, happened a year ago, a little over a year ago, when we found out that we were all going home and that we weren't going to be able to be in school. And so somehow, miraculously, not only did we win the best award in the state of New York, but you know, the students came through without missing a deadline. They just, we couldn't even meet. So, you know, I learned what Zoom is. I always thought it was a lens on a camera. I had no idea what it was. So, you know, we all learned a lot. But we really were turned upside down in terms of what we had been doing and what we had to do in order to publish. But I think it's a real tribute, not just to the students, but to the community. Because we did have the district office helping us to get it online. We had the print shop. And then the tech department. Without the technology, and I'll give Mrs. Reinhardt a shout out too, because I don't know how we could have done it without her, because she really knows how to make things happen and how to bring kids together, all right? And for celebrating, I think that, you know, the students just wrote an editorial a few days ago, and they often inspire me. I mean, they're just so good. And a couple of the sophomores actually wrote an editorial about, you know, the good things that have happened this year. And I hadn't really thought about it. But they did their research and they ran around and they found out all kinds of wonderful things that happened in this district this year. And, you know, that's really exciting. And I don't want to scoop the paper, but when it comes out, take a look at that editorial. It will make you feel good. It will make you feel like celebrating, like we do have something to celebrate. And then the last thing, because I promised not to talk too long, the last thing I want to mention is that the New York Press Association has been around for a long time. And their purpose is really not high schools and colleges. They're really there for the press in the state. But about 25 years ago, they decided to honor a college and a high school, and also, you know, the staffs of various student newspapers. And then every year they send the newspaper entries out to different states to judge. And so another surprise this year was we won it 3 times, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, winning it once is a big deal. And Mr. Paschke went to Albany with the kids the first time they won it. And they would have gone to Saratoga last year, but then it didn't happen. And, you know, this year, again, no trip. But it's still very exciting. And I think, again, it's, you know, it's something to celebrate, something to feel really good about. All right? And so, you know, 3 times in a row is, you know, that's pretty good. Okay, so, and again, thank you for board support, because if it weren't for the support that we have, none of this could happen.
Ms. Reinhardt and Ms. Skoda, I appreciate everything that you've done, because I think that in order to get this publication to the point where it's at, you've had to manage this and direct our students. And I think that our students use you as an example. And I appreciate everything that you've done to get a quality production together. Thank you. For our students, high school is, our main focus is really education here. But yet, there's things like the Spectator that are here to help our students utilize that education and put that education to use. And I think that when we see the awards that the Spectator has received for 3 years, it's really an accomplishment of our students who have taken the education. And it's not just the education in high school, it is the education from pre-kindergarten right through elementary, through middle school, and all of high school. And you've taken that and you've applied it. And I think that is the greatest accomplishment. And I applaud you for that. So thank you. Anything else? Okay. So next we have administrator's report. We have Ms. Ferrero on our special ed report. Ms. Ferrero?
Okay, I promise it will not be nearly as exciting as the Spectator, but I'll do my best. So, good evening, everyone. Tonight I am presenting the annual special education report, which consists of data about our staffing, students, and programs, as well as information about how the foundations of special ed shape these facets. So, starting with staffing, I've included information on this slide that shows how how our instructional staff is distributed. And I also have some information on the bottom that shows you related services such as OT, PT, speech, and other staff comprising of pupil services personnel, and how they are, how many of those individuals we have on staff. So with regards to students, the profile of students by disability classification is basically similar to previous years, with the highest concentration of students with disabilities falling into the classification or category of learning disability, and other health impairment is the second highest one, and that's very standard. From last year to this year, there has been a 17% increase in our special education population, and that's from June 1st of 2020 to June 1st of 2021. So last year's school-age special ed population was 159. As you can see, we're currently at 184. Increases of note include a 6% increase in students classified under the category of learning disability, a 21% increase in other health impairment, and of significant note, there's been a 61% increase in speech or language impairment classifications, and I think I can explain that. We saw a large increase in classified preschoolers from the 18-19 to the 19-20 school year, and that increased number of preschoolers with IEPs then transitioned into kindergarten in the current school year, and all of them, if not, most of them, if not all, and I think it was all, I can't remember now, entered kindergarten under that classification of speech or language impairment. The number of classified preschoolers is higher than it has been in previous years, but it's stable from last year. Last year we were at 43, this year we're at 45.
So, Ms. Ferrer, can I just stop you with a question?
Okay.
We've seen an increase. Is this, I think that the data would be impossible to pull on this, but how much of this do you think is an increase in need versus an increase in diagnosis?
That's a big question, Brian. I think that the increase is probably more related to needs that we are identifying with our own staff, but our own evaluation methods, as opposed to students coming in with diagnoses that we're then, you know, considering. And there's a little bit of that, but I would say it's more identifying needs, you know, on our own.
Okay.
Ms. Farrell, just follow up similar. Has there been any change in the classification criteria that has moved this at all, or it's?
No, there hasn't been. I mean, those classifications are, you know, they're standard from New York State, and they have not changed.
Okay.
So, but that's a good question. So yeah, it's a significant increase, but I do think a lot of it is related to this really big bubble of preschool kids we had a couple of years ago that came through. So, okay, so on this slide and the following two slides, I am showing the distribution of our special ed students across building levels. So the percentage of classified students at pre-K is high, at 27%. However, this year we have a lower enrollment in pre-K, and also preschool special education services are important in terms of early intervention, and we have a lot of referrals that do originate from the pre-K program at Wheelock. So you, like I said, you can see those numbers. I'm not going to read them to you. I did want to note that placements that occur outside of our school district for this group of primary and elementary students include students who are placed at BOCES and the Summit Center. And there are a total of 61 school-age students who receive special ed at the primary and elementary grades. So at middle grades, we have a total of 68 special education students. You can see the uniqueness of each cohort of students in terms of percentages of special ed students in each group or grade level. Ungraded students are students who are designated as appropriate for the New York State alternate assessment based on their needs and functioning. So that gives us that total of 68. Out-of-school placements for this group include BOCES, the Baker Hall School, and home instruction.
So Ms. Farrell, if we could go back a slide.
Sure.
So grades 1 and 3 seem to have a good correlation of a high percentage until digits. The second and fourth don't seem to have that. They seem to be quite a bit lower. So was that the same amount that was identified in pre-K and K? You know, could we see?
You know, that first grade group, yes, is sort of the residual effect of when kids transition from pre-K or preschool special ed services into kindergarten. A lot of them come in, like I said, as speech or language impairment. And of that group of first grade students, many of them, or no, the kindergarten students, most, never mind, I'm not answering your question.
Well, I'm looking for a correlation, and it's really tough to tell because of the way the numbers show.
Well, I do think, so you're showing the residual effect of your kindergarten kids moving forward. Some of them get declassified because they no longer need that speech service. So then, you know, it trickles down a little bit more. Third grade, you start to see an increase there because that's when, you know, we've gotten to the point at that grade level where we've had students go through student assistance teams and the multi-tiered systems of support and received a lot of interventions. It's at that point where we're starting to refer our elementary kids to the Committee on Special Ed, new referrals. So I think that's why you see that uptick there. That drop in fourth grade, I couldn't give you a good explanation for that, but there are, you know, anomalies that happen like that all the time. You know, it's kind of up and down, and you'll see that at each cohort.
Ms. Farrell, sorry.
That's okay.
Are you seeing like where you would have had students phase out due to COVID limitations that they're, you know, we're having to retain them in the program where normally maybe you would have see them, you know, move out of some of these services earlier?
Yeah, I would say we're definitely seeing a bigger need for example, our extended school year program this summer. Mm-hmm. You know, typically we have 3 classes. This year we need 5, you know, so there's definitely that need that we're seeing, you know, with students that didn't get the same type of instruction, and their needs are more significant, so yes.
Okay, thanks.
So I think, Christine, we covered that one. We'll move on to the high school. Okay, so at the high school grade cohorts, we have a total of 51 special education students. Off-campus, placements include BOCES locations, which include special education programming at the Laguitas Center, Chautauqua Lake Central School and Brockton Central School sites that BOCES operates classrooms on those campuses, as well as their P-TECH and alternative education programs. We also have some high school students that attend at Randolph Academy. Again, we have a number of ungraded students at this high school level, and these are students who are working towards a skills and achievement commencement credential as their exit credential from high school under the New York State Alternative Assessment. So all told, Fredonia's classification rate currently is 12%. That's stable from last year and about where we've been over the last several years. This percentage is less than both the Chautauqua County rate and the statewide classification rates, and that is from 2019-20 BEDS data from New York State. So the information on the left side of this slide represents the continuum of services available in our district. We continually examine student needs and shift instructional models, personnel, and services to meet needs as appropriate. When we have unique or significant needs that we do not have a large enough constellation of service students to provide specific classroom types for, that is when we look to more restrictive program options outside of our district, such as BOCES services. In terms of LRE, or least restrictive environment, the overarching guiding principle is to provide students special education services in gen ed settings to the greatest extent possible, and to always provide supports and services in the least restrictive environment that most appropriately meets students' needs. Targets for LRE are prescribed by New York State and are noted on the right side of this slide. So as reported by the State Performance Plan for Special Education, and this is based on 18-19, I don't believe that there was data generated for last school year, the expectation is that 60% of school-age special education students are in gen ed settings for 80% or more of the school day. So again, our 18-19 data shows that we actually did not meet that target. We were below 60% at 52.3. And on the other side of that coin, New York State indicates that only a small percentage of special ed students should be in programs or classrooms that exclude them from general education for more than 60% of the day. In more specific terms, less than or equal to 18% of students should be in programs where they are spending less than 40% of their time in general ed. And we met that target at 12.9%. So this is just a graphic that very readily depicts that the vast majority of our school-age special education students are placed in their homeschool setting. And you can see the other places where we have, our Committee on Special Education has placed students who have significant and unique needs that we can't meet here. And go ahead, Christine. And then regarding preschool special education, we also apply the principle of LRE here as well, or least restrictive environment. This year, 73% of our special education preschool students are receiving services in inclusive or integrated settings or in their home or natural environment. Continuing to look at preschool special education, there was a significant decrease in referrals to CPSE, or the Committee on Preschool Special Ed, that occurred from last year, 19-20, to this year. Last year's number of referrals was an outlier at 50, and appears to be a very high culmination of a steady increase. You can see that increase over those last, most of the last years, of the numbers of referrals that started coming in. But we've dropped back down, I think, to probably more of what's a, I guess I would call it more of a normal level there. So, and again, that was that effect you saw with that large number of kindergarten students classified, and kind of that trickle up from that. So this slide shows the New York State blueprint for improved results for students with disabilities. It was something that the state developed in 2015. It's a plan that was created to ensure that students with disabilities have the opportunity to benefit from high quality instruction, to reach the same standards as all students, and to leave school prepared to successfully transition to post-school learning, living, and employment. So the blueprint's focus is the 7 core principles that are shown here. And those core principles of the blueprint really drive the focus and initiatives that we focus on in our district. For example, we have students that present self-directed IEPs and background information about their disabilities at CSE meetings. They usually come with a slide presentation. It's really enlightening. And it's a great way for kids to get to understand their services and their needs. We encourage their presence at our meetings when they are in middle school and high school, and they receive their own meeting invitation as well by mail. Although the next one down, parents and other family members engaged in a meaningful process related to special ed, I wasn't able to calculate a percentage, but we have a very positive level of parent participation in meetings of the CSE and the preschool committee. And I would say that using Zoom has really supported that. We've done all of our meetings since last March on the Zoom platform, and it makes it really easy for parents to participate. They can participate from home, and it's been a really nice situation. So we also consider access to general education as a priority as we do professional development, and we really have focused our professional development on specially designed instructional models focused in co-taught and consultant classrooms, which is our largest service delivery model. MTSS, or multi-tiered systems of supports, is an ongoing support service system and serves as the structure for support for all students in all realms of development necessary for school success. We also have highly visible inclusive events, activities, and programs, unified sports being a prime example. And finally, we are building our work-based learning initiatives and opportunities so that our older high school students have meaningful hands-on opportunities and experiences to support their classroom learning. And we're going to, obviously start to work to develop more opportunities as normalcy returns. We've had to kind of put a lot of that on pause this year. So, and I just have a couple of pictures of some of our students on the last couple of slides, just so it's excitement here. And that is the conclusion of my report for tonight. So I'm happy to answer any questions, any other questions that you might have.
Ms. Farrell?
Yes.
Do any of the statistics that you shared, either, that our classification lower than Chautauqua County, New York State, or those LRE targets, do any of those impact aid for us in terms of what aid we get to support the programs?
So some of the targets that we miss, if we have too many of those, or a kind of a preponderance of things that were under the state marks on, we would have to do some self-review. We might have to allocate some of our grant funds to coordinated intervening services.
Okay.
And, John might be able to answer this question better than I do, but yes, the number of students with disabilities is how our IDEA grant allocations are generated. That's a component.
But it's proportional to our need, not necessarily comparison to the county or the state?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I believe so. You're right.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. In regards to the staffing that you did on the first page, is everybody full-time, or is there part-time positions?
Those are all full-time positions.
And then the difference between Randolph and, I thought, what was another one, like Baker's? Yeah. Is that because of programming, or is that because of not enough space, maybe, or?
A little bit of each, Heath. So, this year was the first year we'd ever placed a student through the Baker Hall, at the Baker Hall School. And that was really based on looking at other options that may not have had space. That space is definitely an issue, or felt that their programming wasn't appropriate to the needs that we were presenting for our students.
Thanks.
But space is definitely an issue this year, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just had one question on the target that wasn't met. Is that something that you have to fix?
No, I have not been asked to review that in any formal way, but it is definitely something that I have made our special education staff aware of, and that, when we make recommendations at our committee on special ed, we need to be very cognizant of placing students in the least restrictive environment. I hate to overuse that, but it's a really important foundation for us, and making sure that we're not maybe overusing our self-contained classrooms for students who could fare well in general ed with support. So it's a lot of talking and a lot of discussion, and really kind of making very informed decisions, and it's a process. So.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
That was very informative. Thank you.
Not that exciting, but informative.
Well, yeah, exactly, it's very good. Thank you. So we have the minutes from the last meetings from May 18th. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please? Ms. Powell, for 1 second. Ms. Gallo. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Great. Next, we have the financial treasurer's report. Mr. Forbes.
The first thing is a review of the budget status report for April. As we've talked about throughout the course of this school year, there's different things that we're tracking differently because of COVID and because of how school came in. So for example, we know that our special education costs are up because of the number of students we've had this year. We know that our substitute teacher costs are tracking below normal because we didn't have as many students in at the start of the school year. Things like utilities are about where they should be. Salaries and benefits are pretty much a given based on our contractual arrangements. So most of the things we're tracking is where you expect. There are a few that are a little bit low and a few that are a little bit high. But, I think we're good there.
So your estimate by the end of the year that this unencumbered, I'm going to call it a $5 million balance, obviously it will go down, but your best estimate?
Yeah, well, first of all, because this is April, it doesn't have some of the higher cost things that you might see. So
Yep.
for example, the debt service payments that we make in next week, actually, in June. So we have projected on the expenditure side to be around $1 million, and I think we're going to be slightly under that, which would be the positive move that we're trying to see to reduce fund balance.
Okay.
Have a better handle once I run the main numbers.
Okay.
See what that falls.
And if we could get the summary report on this when we're doing these, we would be very appreciative.
The two-page summary?
Yes. Yeah, thank you. The revenue status report for April.
Not a lot of activity there. Big tickets were, we received our tax check back from the county. You may recall that when we get done with tax collection, we submit any balance due to the county. We typically reimburse either late March or early April. This year was early April. So off of that, we picked up another $23,000 of interest and penalties. So that was in the month of April, and also we got $46,000 of additional Medicaid supplemental funds as well.
So John, some of the items that are on here, when I look to the far right corner, in the upper, it says over and under budget. These are all anticipated numbers. They're still not checked out yet as to receiving amounts from like the state. I mean, the 4.3 million.
Yes and no. Yes, there are things that we haven't received yet. For example, about halfway down the page, $100,000 for day school tuition from other districts.
Yeah.
We typically don't bill Forestville until the end of the year. So in June, I'll book a receivable against that amount for whatever the actual cost is. So we'll be getting some of that, but then if you take a look at interest and earnings, we have unanticipated, which is the next line down. We have unanticipated, or anticipated, I should say, of $14,000, and we're not going to hit that. So it depends what the item is.
Right. I mean, that dollar amount I would kind of expect because we have no control over that. But you know, all the other numbers, you know, that I'm looking at, the $70,000 in rental properties.
Yeah, that's because BOCES hasn't paid everything up yet, so.
Right, so a lot of this is anticipated.
Yeah.
Would you be able to mark what we anticipate and what we're actually going to be under and over? Because I see this as
Yeah,
four
I can do
different
that. It
things.
would be on this particular form because I can't change it, but one of the other ones that I do have to add a column for that.
Okay. Thank you.
So, just to clarify, the received year-to-date is what we have actually received, and then there's receivables, whether they've been billed or their services have been provided, we haven't billed them yet, so that would not be included in,
For that particular line item, yes.
yeah, okay. Any other questions? Okay. So we have the treasurer's report for April 2021. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please? Ms. Gallo? And a second?
Second.
Ms. Kaufman. Mr. Forbes, any comments on that?
No comments at all.
Okay, everything is balanced.
Yep.
Any questions on that? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? So next we have some items pertaining to the 2019-2020 external audit report. And there's, we need to approve an amendment. We're asked to approve an amendment to the district response to the external audit management letter. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So,
Mr. Johnston and Mr. Hawk? Any questions on that?
I'll just point out that we've done one of these a meeting or two ago. The state typically, we send an audit report in, and the audit report is the management letter comments that are seen by the board in November when we approve it. This year, they've asked us to have the board actually acknowledge that those comments are in there and to make a motion accepting those. So nothing's changed in the audit report that you saw in November. This is just another layer that New York State has asked us to do.
So this, I mean, I believe it was last meeting, one of the last, we had to put in a date that this would be corrected by?
Yes.
Or, and this is above and beyond that?
So there's two parts. That was referring to the regular management letter comments. This is the single audit piece, which is the federal grant portion, which also has comments and responses from the district, but they wanted a board motion for that.
So if we approve this, will you assure us that we won't have to look at this again next week, next month, meeting?
So I have no guarantee on that.
Yeah, no, I understand, Mr. Forbes. And that's unfortunately the way that some of these reports are, and that we don't know exactly what they're looking for sometimes. So, any questions on that? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So next we have we've got an approval of the resolution to accept the official budget vote and election results as presented here. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
so moved.
Mr. Hawk, thank you. And a second? Ms. Bella. Any questions on that discussion? I think we reviewed that, was it the 18th?
Yes.
Yes. So, if not, one question that we had and we talked about the other day, the blank and void, there were some that, did you have any response on that as far as how many were overvoted versus blank?
Right, so a blank or void is obviously if someone leaves it completely blank on either side, that results in a blank. A void would be if someone accidentally voted twice or made a mistake when they put a ballot through the machine and had to re-vote, and that was struck from the total. And then an undervote is if they vote for no candidates, or they don't vote for the budget, but they vote on the other side. And an overvote is when asked to vote for 3 candidates, they vote for 4 or 5. So all of those kind of intricacies will result in an under or overvote. They are higher this year than they have been in the past. I do not have necessarily a good explanation for that, but those numbers were verified by the Board of Elections.
And that does not void the entire ballot?
Correct.
It would just, okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, all those in favor of accepting that, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have the approval of the release of the 21-22 purchase orders. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please? Ms. Bello. And a second. Mr. Johnson. Any questions on that? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful. Next, we have a discussion regarding the tuition rates for this coming year. Can we have a motion to just bring this to the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Mr. Hawk, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Powell Ford. Okay. Mr. Ziliaks, Mr. Forbes.
No, I think each year in every district, there's a conversation about tuition students who attend our school. And part of that is what is that amount of tuition and what does that look like for people who would be looking to attend our district who are not residents. Mr. Forbes, in an email, sent a variety of information to us that is helpful in kind of processing that information. And in my mind, either one of two things. We could have a discussion tonight in which we would land on an amount that would make sense to us as a group this evening and potentially approve that, or we could have a discussion that might not lead to an exact answer. We could table this item until our next meeting on the 22nd and then revisit and approve at that time. So, John, anything, Mr. Forbes, that you wanted to share with the group that might be highlights or things that have been relevant to this conversation in the past?
Well, a couple things. Obviously, tuition, from my standpoint, is a revenue stream. So as we have students age out, if we don't have them coming in, then that will affect, to some degree, the revenue projections down the road. Also, because of COVID last year, the board decided not to add any tuition students last year because we didn't want to add more bodies to a potential reduced class size situation. So that was a consideration. Also, in the past few years, the board has used the tax levy increase as the benchmark for increasing the tuition rate. You could also look at using the increase in the budget expense as a way to do that. So what I've done on one page is I've listed for you proposed rates at 0%, 1%, 2%, and 3%. Just for informational purposes, the budget increase was 2.05%. The tax levy obviously is 0%.
So I would just like to say to my other board members, from adding to what John is talking about, yes, we have followed the tax levy percentage for some time as to the dollar amount that we've used to increase our tuition students' cost. But this year I think is a little different, and much to what I hear John saying as an option is to look at the piece where we had a 0% tax levy increase, but using budget surplus is to actually having a 2%, am I correct with a 2%, or was it higher than 2?
2.05.
Okay, 2.05% increase to actual cost. That was used from surplus to allow that to be a 0% tax levy. So I would want to start there as to an increase in tuition student cost, because I think that's a fair cost. That's a cost that's already been passed on to our tax levy district, and they're just seeing it as use of their surplus. So that would as to a starting point.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. I tend to agree, but I'm looking for comments otherwise.
I
Yes.
agree 100%.
I agree.
So you agree in increasing it per our cost as opposed to our increase in the tax levy?
Yeah, the 0%, from my perspective, right, that was a benefit to our taxpayers, right? And that we're using the surplus, which our taxpayers have contributed to, that our tuition students, you know, are not a part of that, so 100% agree with that. But
I just, I don't want to expand too far on this, but I looked at the numbers, the state average K to 6 to 12 is around 11,000. We're about 4. I'm just wondering what Western New York is, because obviously that includes Long Island, some they're pretty much a different country when it comes to numbers and stuff, but just what is it in Stockton County? What are other schools doing? And also, John mentioned, it's a revenue stream, so do we want a lot of students to come in? I mean, what's the benefit, what's the negative, or what's the balance here with this? In terms of, say 50 kids came through the door, do we want that or don't we want that? I'm not sure. I just need some clarification.
I'd like to address a couple of points there. First of all, the New York State rate that's listed here, that is a district-specific rate. Each district is different, so that is a Fredonia state calculated rate. That helps clarify that. Secondly, in the teachers union contract, there is specific language that if amount of tuition students were to come in to create the need for another section, then we would not do that. We would not accept the tuition students and close it, so that we're not adding staff based upon non-resident people.
Okay.
Also, typically you have, which you see in the packet today, 3 or 4 families per building, generally not all in the same grade level, and so there's not a big problem with enrollment. Typically at middle and high school it's not an issue. Typically elementary it is an issue in some classes where that extra tuition student may push you beyond where you want to be. So once you make the decision on tuition itself, we would then need to go back to the principals and say, okay, if we do this, what's that do for your classes? And they may say, I can't take any more, at which point you close one grade, you close all grades. So it's not an open.
So it's a balance. Okay.
sorry, John, can you clarify? So if second grade can't have any more, then we can't take high schoolers off the list?
All or none.
And that's our district rule, or that's a state regulation?
Because it's felt to be discriminatory if you allow one grade now, so it's all or none.
Okay. And do we have any thoughts yet, if we're back to normal spacing that, for the wait list, is that, or we don't know yet?
I can tell you based upon the conversation that we had yesterday as a group, it looks like kindergarten is getting tight. And I think elementary's got a couple grades that are getting tight, so probably you're looking at, if you were to accept them, we have to double check with the principals obviously, but if you accept all families on the list, then we'd probably be looking at pretty quick closing, if not immediately. And I do know from the numbers I gave you, there's one family that got added at the middle school, and one of the families at the high school, I believe, is closed on a house, so that you're up one down.
And how, do we have any projections for a return for the private school students coming back into elementary and middle? Have we done any of those outreach yet, or?
Yeah, one of the things that we did was just put out a general notice saying to families, and to touch on your other question, there's still some unknown here.
For sure,
And I know that's frustrating to people, and people would love to be able to just, and we would love to be able to lock in what will it look like in September, and what exactly will be our mode of instruction, all of those nuances. But we did send out a general notice to people saying, if you have any interest in returning, that would be great to know. We're basing a lot of things on those projections, and it would help us in our planning. However, the dilemma there is some families reached out and said, well, tell me about what it's gonna look like in September. And we said, well, here's what we believe it's gonna look like, but we can't fully commit to that. And I said, well, then I can't fully commit to what I would like to do, and that's understandable. So, you know, everything's sort of interconnected. But we are at least inviting people into that conversation, or inviting them to return if they would like.
How many families does that impact once you went to project?
You know, that's, man, I don't know if I have a total for you right now.
Brett, it's 82.
Okay.
82 families or students?
I believe 82 total students.
So it's a significant number. I mean, that's almost a grade level. You know, thinking of each class is a little over 100 students, so that is significant. And we'll see what people elect to do. And, we're absolutely, as an administrative team, not trying to drag our feet with answers for September, but we understand the damage that can be done if we create a plan too early and then have to adjust that plan, and the ramifications of that shifting is not helpful to people who have really tried to nail some things down in terms of daycare or other things that accompany students coming to school. So we're trying to be cautious but move forward as quickly as we can.
I think just to follow up on Steve's point about, you know, the pricing, it would be interesting, you know, how do we rate in tuition in Chautauqua County, you know, comparable? I think our tuition rate is a bargain, right, for the education that we give in this district, the number of extracurriculars, all of those types of things, so I think.
You sound like an alumni.
Yeah.
I haven't done it lately, but it used to be that a good portion of the districts in the county either didn't accept tuition or they only accepted tuition, sometimes free, of staff. And that was a discussion we've had as a district here before. Also for a number of years now, going back 15, 18 years, of a period of time that our rates stayed consistent for quite a few years. And then change in policy, and each year we brought it up. And we also looked at one point at actually going to the state rate, and the discussion there centered around you're paying at that time $2,000, and you're going to go, be told that, oh, for next year if you want to stay, you're going to go to $8,000, and how many families would be able to afford to do that in a one-year situation.
So we do have the option to get more information, table this item for the time being, and revisit the 22nd if that is of interest to the board.
And if you want to use 2% as a rounded number that is available tonight, if you want 2.05, you can amend the motion to say 2.05% instead of specifically by grade level.
I just wanted to ask, you just mentioned in the past we had staff that, does staff pay for tuition, or staff does not?
Staff pays tuition.
Pays tuition.
Yeah, we also used to have a slight discount if you had a second or third child in that. Everybody pays the same.
So if you know me, I'm the alumni also, and I'm very positive on the education here at Fredonia, and I think that one of my offhanded remarks was, why don't we advertise to outside students, outside families, to tuition their kids here to Fredonia for a great education, and then build our numbers that way. But what you're telling me is that within the teacher's contract, we can't do that.
Well, your first thing that you look at would be your grade level enrollment, because that in and of itself would dictate what you're doing. But secondly, there's a specific clause that says we won't add staff because of the addition of a tuition job.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you have to be talking 5 or 6 kids at one grade level in one section to have that be a problem. So I don't think that really comes into play.
The largest piece that I recall after all of the discussions that I've been a part of in the last 12 years has been the balance of regulating the numbers to not need the additional staff, and to take advantage of the option of available seats at an affordable kids in at free tuition. So, you know, this is something that's really been, I think, discussed quite a bit, all these questions. And Steve, you know most about tuition. I think you were part of Ripley, being joined with a school district that you worked and retired from, so you know the dollar amounts there. But that was a point where you had to increase staff or maybe best utilized your staff. And to that, we're not eliminating jobs in other districts by the few students that are coming in. We're just offering these opportunities. And I know the school district that I graduated from, a couple of kids that tuitioned to Fredonia because the 313 was available. You know, I don't know if that's still the case, but it you know, I don't know. I haven't followed other school districts to understand that question thoroughly enough to say that that's an issue still.
I guess I would like to see some county, comparative data from the county. Out of curiosity, to see what the other school districts are doing. Going back to the opening discussion, Tom, I would agree with you with the 2.05. Also preliminary. But I would like to see some comparative data.
I think it's an important piece, and then bring you up to speed with maybe where I'm already thinking from to understand it. Yeah.
Mr. Forster?
On board.
Okay. Ms. Hine?
Well, I'm just thinking that we're looking at a number here that's not that large of people, students currently on the waiting list. The sooner they know, the better they can lock down their fall plans. I mean, I think it would be interesting to know the other data. I don't know if we need it for this decision this year. I'm just thinking if we made a motion to increase it by 0.05%, so it matched the 2.05%, and went forward, that's what I would go for.
Okay. And I think that if we were looking at not approving this tonight and looking for comparative data, looking for other information, we would bring this back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, June 22nd.
Yeah, typically we like to get the information out by early July, so families can plan and get their payment schedules down. A 2-week delay is critical.
Yeah. So the question, John, you know, we look at the expenses that we have per student, and it's if you look at our total budget divided by our number of students, it's about $22,000 per student. And I understand there's a lot of fixed costs in there that will not change no matter how many students are here. Our debt service is probably the main fixed expense. Probably teacher's salary will not change a whole lot because it's contractual. So I don't expect to be charging our tuition students that full cost per student. But as far as our fixed cost versus our variable cost, so there are some variable costs here, but your best guess as far as what they would be in the grade, and I believe that you have said that the costs in the earlier grades per student variable is lower than the variable costs at the higher level.
Well, part of the discussion that was had a number of years ago now is exactly that. So if you take a look at an elementary student who takes the basic elementary program, there's not extracurriculars for the most part, there's not sports for the most part, there's not the kinds of things that might generate that extra cost. So going back, at that point, the board decided to change the rate by adding an additional $500 onto the upper levels to try to compensate for that. If you take a look at the budget as a whole, most of what costs across the board are fixed costs.
Right.
The variables would be extra textbooks,
Yep.
things of that nature, because Your office expenses aren't gonna change if you had 3 kids. Your sports generally is not gonna change other than the cost of maybe another uniform, and typically there's extra uniforms in there. As you mentioned, salary, debt service, postage costs, most of those things aren't gonna change, no matter if you add 1 kid or 3 kids, or subtract 3 kids.
Okay. So, to get a feel for where the board is, would we like to make a decision tonight, or would you like to look at comparative data, as Mr. Johnson has asked?
I would say look at comparative data. I don't think it's that, it is so low, the tuition is so low. People spend $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in Buffalo for private school, and I think you get more here.
That's a college expense, isn't it?
Right, so I think it'd be interesting to see what other schools charge, because we very well could raise it a little bit more than 2% and not scare anybody away, because the alternatives are 3 times that in private schools.
So are we okay with delaying this till the next meeting? Okay, you'll still be on board. Okay.
Brian, we would need a motion to
table
table.
this.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I could get a motion to table this, Mr. Johnston? Okay, and a second?
Second.
Ms. Powell Fordman, and we do have to vote on that.
Yeah, the tabling.
Okay, so, all those in favor of tabling this till the next meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We have, the approval of a contract with outside agency management advisory group, where the costs are the same as last year. So, Mr. Hoff? Thank you.
I'll second.
Am I taking too long? All right, I get the end. Any discussion on that? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have a couple transportation bids here. The first is a 2-year transportation extension with First Student. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please? Ms. Gallo. And a second.
Second.
Mr. Johnson. Any question on that?
Quick question. Maybe because I noticed it before, but is it typically 2 years?
It's been 2, it's been 3, they suggested 2, so.
Did they approach you guys with the?
Yeah.
With the amount?
And typically, the extension is based upon CPI. CPI is probably averaged about 1.8% over the last 3 years, which is a modest increase in their contract. Also, if you were to say, let's do an RFP, or let's go and get our own bus fleet, you're probably looking at a significant change from what we're paying now. This has been a contract that's been extended going back to 1981, so cost-wise, you're probably in a good position to do this.
So to that question, Jen, has the state altered our aid to this at all, or does it stay the same?
No, they haven't.
It stayed the same.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have the approval of a 30-day emergency transportation contract. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please? Ms. Powell Fordman, any second?
Second.
Ms. Gold. Any questions on that? Okay. And that's only $75 a day, it's lunch money.
Yeah, what we're doing here is, it's just a new service for the student that started June 2nd. So because we're inside of a month of school, we can do a 31-day emergency contract. It normally would be for school year a piggyback situation, which would be doing with Dunkard, which we did one earlier this year. But because of the nature of the time, and Dunker signed off on it, that they were okay with our student riding on the bus, we can do it every one day.
But we only get charged when it gets used. Okay? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Wonderful. We have the appointment of personnel to probationary positions of Jared Hayden. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Mr. Pop. And a second? Ms. Hanna. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, we have an addendum item here. If everyone has that. You don't have that? Okay.
There's copies over here.
Mr. Forrester, Mr. Hoffman, have that? Okay. So we have the approval of the appointment of personnel on a long-term, continuing, temporary, or per diem substitute basis. Can I have?
So these are all part of the consent agenda, but I can explain the items if you'd like.
I see. So we're not voting on these?
Part of consent.
Part of consent?
Yeah.
Okay.
So number 3 and 4 represent temporary aid positions to support the Unified Basketball Program. And so that's a temporary basis, it's just from a certain date range. And those 2 individuals are paid per contract for that time. And that's based on individual student needs for the Unified Basketball Program.
And that was really the need for the addendum tonight. We had a couple subs on the list that we just put in to have them officially on the books, should we need them, as we close out the school year. But really, we wanted to wrap up the unified aids and make sure that they were paid in a timely manner, since the season is just about wrapping up right now. So that was the need to include this initially.
Okay. Any questions on any of that? Okay. So we have consent through the remaining majority of the agenda. We don't have any public here left, so we will skip that. We have our superintendent's report, Mr. Williams.
Yep, real brief tonight. First of all, I wanted to welcome and re-welcome Mrs. Gallo and Mrs. Hahn, and welcome to the Board of Education. We're happy to have you both here. Also wanted to note that this is Dr. Wright's first official board meeting with us. She has been on board about a week at this point and has been out and about in the district, being very visible, meeting with people, and starting to get a sense of our buildings and our variety of departments. And she has made a very positive first impression. So this is off to a great start, and welcome, Dr. Wright. And just a couple of things from our s'more, and Dr. Wright did a video last week for our s'more, so that was great. We got a lot of views from our public. But as you know, there's been a lot of conversation about the wearing of masks in school over the past several days, and especially over the weekend. And as of right now, we are in a position where indoors we're going to continue to wear masks, and we're waiting on any official guidance that might change that. There is an option out there that outdoors but on school grounds, this can be an option for school districts to no longer have students wear masks. Since this is a public safety matter, it is on our executive session agenda later this evening, and that will be a discussion amongst the board. Should we make movement in that direction, we would notify people as soon as possible. And we've all been processing this information and thinking about where we might want to go as a district in way of the outdoor masks. In terms of any other information, we have been, since I've been on board, but really every school district since September, August of the beginning of the school year, really monitoring all state, local, and national news regarding anything pandemic related or anything that touches on the COVID procedures or protocols. So we are more than willing to adjust and adapt as we need to, but at the same time, we've come all this way. We've made a lot of progress this year. I believe that we're ending the school year on a strong note with some of our senior activities and other things at the high school level that really are a nice culmination of the K-12 experience. And I would hate to just see us take a step backwards here in the home stretch. So I would recommend we exercise some caution while still being open to making some changes if that's what we believe is best for the district. So that's all I have tonight.
That's it?
That's it. Oh,
Sorry.
question, sorry.
One question. Sam Canto, the COVID vaccine clinic that we held at the school last week, do
Yep.
we have any numbers on student participation in that?
Yep, so we administered about 100 vaccines. Did we get clarification on?
No, I did reach out to the Chautauqua Center to get a final exact number, but I know they brought 100 doses, and I believe we were very close to that target, so.
And at least the forms that we handled were around 80, at least 80 student vaccines.
Great, fantastic.
Great. It got a little gray as students at the end of the clinic were bringing them in
For sure.
at the last minute, which was acceptable. But we probably had close to 80.
That's great.
Just, we turned them in prior.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
So, the next Board of Education meeting is June 22nd, 2021, right here at the school library. I would like to just, again, welcome back Ms. Della.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Hahn, welcome to the Board of Education again.
Thank you.
Ms. Wright, it's terrific to have you here, and we look forward to putting you to work. Okay?
Thank you, very excited to be here.
But yeah, we're looking forward to that. And if I could, I would just like to also, if I could just do a shout out here, because one of the things, again, we're here for education, and I understand that, but there's so many extracurriculars that help our students grow, not just their academics, but also their teamwork, their dedication, determination, it's the internal fortitude. But our sports programs have had I guess the only way I can summarize it is to say, football in the spring? But that took a lot of effort, and it took a lot of coordination. It took a lot of teamwork, not only for our students, but for our coaches, for our administration, for our teachers. It took a lot of flexibility. Wow, I don't know how you go through 3 seasons of sports in just, what, 4 months, 5 months? It's kind of crazy. But I would just like to thank everyone involved, our students, our teachers, our coaches. And I know that our students learn from examples from the flexibility and the coordination and the teamwork that is shown in these regards. And I appreciate everyone working together on that. So a big thank you for everyone who has helped out on that. With that, going around the table, I'm going to start over here, Mr. Johnston. You know, I don't have Mr. Gambrone to pick on anymore, so.
I was so confident that I was.
No, you know, I try to change things here, so.
Ask him. Welcome, Ms.
Anything
Hahn.
you'd like to add?
Welcome, Ms. Hahn. Dr. Wright, welcome. You're going to find this a great district. You know, you probably know that, but it's great. Courtney, so glad you're back. You never left. You never left. My neighbor. Ms. Farrell,
I brought the chocolate tonight.
great presentation tonight. And, you know, more of those students next year. I love hearing from the students.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ms. Gola?
Welcome Sheila and welcome Dr. Wright. I'm glad to have you both here. And then I won't steal your thunder, Mr. Paschke. However, I did hear that last night was great, and I heard compliments to you. It was a great evening for the
Thank you.
scholarship night, so thank you for putting that together.
I'm also going to welcome Ms. Hahn, Courtney, Dr. Wright. Very much looking forward to working with you, so welcome to the district.
Thank you.
And I was also going to not steal too much thunder, but the prom, just what a beautiful night, and so happy to see all the pictures posted, and really, really so happy for the students that was able to be pulled off. So thank you, Mr. Paschke, and everyone involved in that.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Forrester?
Welcome, Matt is still out there. Yeah, the prom, what a great thing to see. You know, it's just like there was some normalcy there going on, and it was just great to see all the students that I saw just getting together and acting like they should be acting. You know, it's spring, it's prom time, and they had a great time, as far as I heard. So thank you for that, and also, as Ms. Bill mentioned, that awards night was fantastic. So I just appreciate all the efforts that are being put in to try to help to finish the school year off the way that it usually is finished off, you know, that sense of normalcy that for our seniors. And I just appreciate that, all the efforts that are out there. Thank you.
Mr. Hawk?
Welcome, Ms. Hahn and Dr. Wright. And, you know, along to add with everyone else, Mr. Paschke, thank you for all your efforts and everyone involved. Because, you know, being a senior and last year was just an upside down world. And it's got a little bit of normalcy to it this year, but still, you know, it's still a curveball to that group. As Brian spoke to the sports program, you know, but everybody pulled it off. And I've heard a lot of great things about the excitement and the energy that's been involved. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Great. Ms. Hahn?
Thank you all so much for the warm welcome. I'm thrilled to be here. Congrats to Courtney and welcome to Dr. Wright.
Thank you.
I am somewhat hesitant to tell you that I won't be here on June 22nd.
Well, we do have graduation coming up. How about that one?
I am definitely coming to graduation, especially
Good.
since my son is graduating.
Good.
And that's why I have to go get my son from Memphis, where he's playing travel lacrosse, thanks to the flexibility of Mr. Paschke and our teachers and administration, who were so flexible to let him take advantage of this opportunity and finish the school year remotely. But I must go get him.
Yes.
And probably things are not going quite as well academically as hoped. Hopefully the mic is off now.
No, it's still on.
Anyway, thanks again.
We're just going to leapfrog here for a second, okay?
Sure.
Yeah, so get your notes ready, okay?
Right.
Mr. Paschke, what's going on in the high school? Anything?
No.
No? I think you're lying.
Thank you for the accolades. I mean, honestly, it's a team effort, so, I mean, while you're thanking me, I appreciate that, but there are a lot of people who have put forth a lot of effort to make all of these events possible, so I just have to give them a lot of the credit. It is nice to have some great events. The prom was fantastic, awards night last night. Just as great as it is for the kids, believe it or not, for me, it was the same thing, because I love that stuff so much. I mean, I'm just steeped in Fredonia, and I enjoy it. And not having the normal stuff, it's hard for me as well. So it was just a feeling of pride, a feeling of excitement to be in person with our kids at the prom and have kind of a really normal night. And it was beautiful outside, not just the weather, but the care that our student council students and advisors took to prepare the tents with the lights and balloons that lit up in the dark, and just really cool things that they did. A beautiful dessert spread, and it was wonderful. We have a lot coming up as well. This Friday we have our senior class night, and that's going to be out in the back here near the tennis courts. The kids will be sitting outside, depending on how executive session goes, with or without masks, we'll find out. That event is fun. We give the valedictorian and salutatorian their medals at that. They do all of their senior superlatives. Kids will be doing skits and musical performances and just enjoying each other's company. It's kind of a quick night. It goes from about 8 to 9:30. If you are available, please feel free to come out. We invite the parents to kind of be in the parking lot area. The kids will be seated. We just space the seats out 6 feet apart, and they'll be in the grass near the tennis courts. And then we pull up our big white truck, which was kind of a weird thing from last year. We rented a large inflatable screen to show their slideshow on. There's a slideshow presentation every year, and they go through all of their pictures from kindergarten all the way through. And it was the windiest day of the year last year, and that started to blow away, so we had to think fast, and we happened to have this giant white box truck that had all of the chairs that we had borrowed from a local church, and we just pulled that up and we showed the movie on it, and it worked better than the screen. So we're going to do that again this year.
Good.
I want to thank you guys for approving the driver's ed teacher or instructor for the summer. So we are getting that off the ground. We will be having 2 sessions of driver's ed over the summer. We aren't driving cars. The parents are going to have to drive with their kids and keep a log. The instructor will just be doing the classroom portion, and that looks like right now it's going to be on Zoom, unfortunately, but that's what it is. And you know, obviously graduation is coming up. Things are looking good for graduation. We're hopeful, if it doesn't rain, that we're going to be able to have our audience in a kind of bring your own chair type of situation. And if we get to do that, and again, this is if we get to do that, you know, we can have up to 5 family members per student to be able to fit there, which would be incredible, because right now where we are was just, you know, put a few people in a car and they kind of have to sit in the car. But things have seemed to loosen up a bit, and I'm hopeful to be able to make an announcement relatively soon with regards to that. And I've got a million more things, but I won't take your time.
Thank you.
And the kids are fantastic. I mean, just the level of excitement of the seniors, it's tangible in the building today. Having our kids back today, they're excited, looking forward to doing all these cool things. And just a reminder for board members, if you're coming to the Wednesday event for celebrating the kids that were here tonight for winning the award, that is down at Dimitri's on Wednesday.
Yeah, next Wednesday.
What's that?
Next Wednesday? Or this
Oh,
Wednesday?
next Wednesday,
Yeah.
Sorry, not this Wednesday, yes, the 16th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, not this Wednesday.
Thank you, Mr. Paskey, and if I haven't said that our students come first, I think that you exude that. So thank you for everything that you've done for our students.
Again, team effort, but thank you.
Yes, and if you would relay that on too, that we just appreciate everyone's work in your office, in the high school, to do as much as we can for our students. Thank you. Ms. Troutman.
Let's see, today we administered the New York State Science Assessment to our 8th graders. Mark did it with his 4th graders, so we have that taken care of for the year. We are going to be welcoming our fourth graders this week to the middle school. So we're doing a short orientation with them on Wednesday and Friday. So we bring them up by class, we help them, have them meet the fifth grade teachers, we do a tour of the building, just to give them a brief little window into the middle school, and then this summer we'll do a full-fledged, hopefully, orientation where their parents and the students usually come in and really get to see the whole tour, and we do a lot of discussion with them. Our fifth graders went on a field trip last week. It was our first field trip to the Dunkirk Lighthouse. It was wonderful. The kids had a great time. The weather was beautiful, so it was nice to be able to do something like that with the kids again. This Thursday, we will be doing our 8th grade celebration with our students. They're going to be leaving us, and so we're celebrating their accomplishments. We are going to be streaming it to our families on YouTube live, and then we'll record it for those parents who can't see it live. Our 8th grade teachers are planning a picnic for the kids, and so, like you said, we're trying to give them some piece of normalcy. Our 6th and 7th grade teachers are trying to plan some activities to help the kids kind of celebrate the end of the year, so we're almost there.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Drellinger.
Yep, the Rainbow Run that was previously scheduled for a couple weeks ago has been rescheduled to June 19th, so that's coming up. 9:30, we start back here, and it's like there's a couple different routes, a 1 mile, a 2 mile, and a 3 mile run. So that's the PTO's biggest fundraiser for the year, so the kids are excited for that, and we're happy that we could reschedule that one. And we're happy to announce that I met with the music department, and we worked with the teachers there, and we're bringing chorus back next year. With the restrictions bringing us to closer together, we can do that. So kids are excited. In grades 2 through 4, we'll have chorus, and we anticipate having some, performances, hopefully in person or whatever next year looks like. But that's in the schedule, so that'll be exciting. Summer school starts up July 6th, so we offered that to families this week. We sent a letter home, and we're gathering enrollment data this week. And then we too are wrapping up the year with some end of the year activities. We're gonna have some walking field trips to Russell Joy Park and other things like that, and we're inviting some of the families in for some open houses as some of our units are kind of wrapping up. And we're just looking forward to welcoming next year's incoming first graders. And we began the early phases of an open house, which we traditionally do late August. So we'll open those up to the community and offer tours and meet the teacher nights and things like that. So that's what we got going on.
Good time to be in elementary school.
Yes, it is, right? It is.
Yeah. Ms. Farrow.
Very similar to my colleagues, we're busy in special ed with end of the year activities. Really planning for the summer program is a kind of a heavy task right now, planning for next year. And I guess I just want to make a comment to the board. This is sort of an extension of the report I provided, but I want to say that when our committees meet with parents who are new to special ed, I always explain to them that they're going to get a letter from the board and that from the board president, that their child's recommendations go to the board for final approval. And I explain that, the Board of Education entrusts me and that committee to make the right decisions for students with special needs, but ultimately it's the board's responsibility to fund and support the special ed programs for our students with disabilities. So really, I guess I just want to say thanks for all of that support. And I do tell parents that on a routine basis, that that's really where the support comes from. So just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, thank you. Sure. But it's through your recommendation. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and your staff. Thank you. Mr. Forbes.
Welcome back to Courtney, and welcome to our new board member, Dr. Wright.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Hoff.
I think I forgot to say Courtney.
That's all right. All right,
It's like you never left.
You
can scratch
I don't want to make a scene.
I already made a note for the minutes now.
You already make out the I apologize card? Sign it, stop, I signed it.
What's that? All right, so the big moment. Dr. Wright, do you have any comments for us?
It has been an absolutely wonderful, wonderful start to my time here and being part of the team at Fredonia. I could not be more thrilled. Everybody has just welcomed me so warmly, you know, in every facet. And I'm just so grateful to the admin team for making the time to have conversations. This is really about the listening and learning for, if you will. You know, I can't really engage in the good work to be done until I understand and I hear from everybody and I understand, you know, how best to serve our students, our families, and certainly, you know, my teammates in here in the education field. So it's just been wonderful. I love, you know, Mr. Drollinger was kind enough to let me be out there and bus duty a couple times in the afternoon, and the kiddos come by and you say, have a good day. They're like, goodbye. You know, they don't know who you are. They're all so friendly. And same thing in the high school, you know, middle school, walking around the buildings. Everybody's so kind. The teachers are so nice. And spent some time in Wheelock last Friday, which is always a hoot. So it's just been a fantastic beginning. So I'm looking very, very forward to digging in and just being, like I said, part of the team to do the good work.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing? Nothing? Did we do a good job? We got through everything?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't miss anything.
No, you're good.
Okay.
I would have told you.
Okay.
I do have a question, Mr. Eldridge. Is Dr. Wright going to replace Joe Rada's voice on the phone calls?
Oh, you know, that is kind of creepy, isn't it?
I'm not even sure you're talking about, but really, how interesting.
You've been signed up for it.
Oh, it's coming? Okay, great.
Other duties as assigned.
That's right.
It's just kind of weird whenever we get those robocalls that it's Joe Rada's voice.
Yes,
Joe
yes.
has called a couple times and said, I really like the voice you have. It sounds like Jim.
Okay, so the board anticipates the need to enter an executive session to discuss matters pertaining to particular personnel. If I could get a motion to enter into Mr. Johnson, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Balfour. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we are in executive session at 7:40. Thank you, everyone.